One day, years ago when I was a teenager living in Southern California, my parents, my little brother, and I decided to spend the day at the beach. I can't remember exactly where this beach was, but it was secluded. We were really the only ones there. It was sort of a gray day, but it was nice and warm out, so my brother and I decided to hit the surf while Mom and Dad stayed back on shore. It was fun stuff. It was kid stuff. Until it wasn't. The Riptide had picked up. The Riptide. When we see waves on an ocean, that's the tide coming in and the tide going out. What can happen sometimes is that the tide that's going out can become sort of compressed and bottlenecked between areas where the tide is coming in. The net effect is essentially a river that's created on the ocean, this current of high volume, high velocity heading away from the beach. It can be a very dangerous situation. So here, my brother and I thought we were having a great time until I look over and I see he's being taken out to sea. He'd gotten caught in the Riptide. Now, in that moment, he's my little brother. I could have left him to swim back on his own. He's probably just messing around anyway. I could have swam in ashore. Mom, Dad, look! I could have stayed where I was and yelled, call 911, and waited for the first responders to arrive. It's an interesting term that we use, first responders. They're rarely, if ever, the first ones on scene. The victims are. When we're faced with an emergency situation, we have to be able to survive long enough for first responders to get there and be able to do their work. Therefore, it's incumbent upon all of us as individuals to develop a first responder mindset. We spend more time worried about daydreaming about what we might do if we won the next Mega Millions jackpot than what we might do if somebody walked in and started shooting right this second. What would you do? What would you do? Where is your nearest exit? Do you understand the difference between cover and concealment? Cover is a barrier you might hide behind that has the potential to stop a projectile and prevent an injury. Concealment is a barrier you might hide behind that really only serves to conceal or hide you from your assailant. Doesn't necessarily provide the bodily protection, say, that cover does. Are you prepared to run? Are you prepared to fight? Did you know that 4 minutes is the fastest average response time on record for police and emergency personnel? Did you know that I've been speaking for about 4 minutes now? 4 minutes. So that means that had something happened, had somebody walked in and started shooting when I started talking, only the fastest responders on record would only just now be arriving on scene. And after they do arrive, what's their first priority? What is their top priority? When they first get there, their top priority is neutralizing the shooter. Their top priority is securing the building. Their top priority is making sure that it's generally safe enough to allow EMTs, firefighters, other first responders to actually come onto the scene. So when something goes down and you see flashing lights and you see uniforms, that doesn't necessarily mean you're out of the woods yet. It could be additional precious minutes that you're waiting to receive care. Or, as we saw in the tragic case of the Pulse nightclub shooting, it could be agonizing hours that you're left alone, waiting for help. This is critical. This is critical to understand when you consider the fact that an untreated arterial bleed can kill you in less than 5 minutes. Make no mistake, our ladies and gentlemen in uniform are our heroes. There are certainly people within this very room that might not be here if not for the heroic, selfless acts of these truly phenomenal people. In order to best honor their service, we need to empower ourselves with a survival mindset. In this way, we actually become their partners in making the world a safer place. If we were to take 100 people and put them into a room, and the fire alarm went off, statistically speaking, only 58 would immediately head toward an exit. 42 have their head stuck in their phone. 42 don't even know what the alarm means. 42 are waiting for somebody else to get up and go before they get up and go. I challenge you today to beat the statistics, beat the numbers. I challenge you today to be a first responder. It's not about first aid kits, fancy tools, or wearing body armor every day. The first responder mindset is the sober recognition that you are the first line of defense. You don't get to choose when, where, why, how you might find yourself in crisis. Carry the first aid kit. Carry pepper spray. Store extra food and water. But most importantly, prepare yourself for the worst by learning, training, and practicing how to survive. Because the truth of the matter is that in a crisis, victims are not notified. Next of kin are. So I want to take you back. I want to take you back to that day on that beach with my brother. He was no victim. We may have been children at the time, but he was a first responder. He was the first responder. The first thing he did is he connected. He connected with the alarms going off in his head saying, you're too far from shore. You don't have the energy. You don't have the strength. You have to do something. So he took control. He took control of the situation by maintaining his composure, maintaining his focus, and he began to tread water. He committed. He committed to the action that he took. He committed because he knew that help might be a while. Finally, he communicated. He communicated. He reached out. He signaled. He yelled to make sure that somebody knew he was in trouble. That somebody just so happened to be me. I was able to swim over to him. We were able to work together and get back into shore. Luckily we were okay. That was it. Had I not been there that day, who knows? He may or may not have made it. But what we do know is that for those critical moments, he was on his own. He had no help. He had to wait. He had to suffer. He had no choice but to survive. And so it is for all of us when we're facing an emergency situation. So we need to connect. Connect with the alarms in your environment. Connect them to the dangers that they're warning you of and act accordingly. Take control of the situation by taking immediate, decisive action. Don't stand around and wait for somebody else to help you. Be your own hero. Commit. Commit to the situation, commit to the action, commit to the patient that you're caring for. And don't give up until that next level of care is available to you. And communicate. Don't assume that just because mom and dad are back on the beach or big brother is swimming close by, that anybody even knows that you're in trouble. Don't assume that because you're in a room crowded full of people, that somebody's called 911. You in the blue, call 911. I'm in trouble. You in the red, please help me find a first aid kit. I've severely cut myself. Emergencies are chaos. They are utter chaos. Nobody is expected to be an expert in every situation. But if we can do these things, we can all become first responders in the purest spirit of the word. Taking a little time, thinking about personal safety and your responsibility during an emergency could save a life. You could save a life. The life you save could be your own.